the Church of Scientology is so afraid of?
This is SPTV.
Hello, guys. Welcome
Hi.
back
Hey, everybody.
to
Okay, there we go. Tightened my
the
microphone.
first live. This is our first live of Liz and I together, guys.
Is it?
It is. It's been highly requested, but I don't think we ever managed to actually go live.
That genuinely surprises me, actually. So good. I'm glad we're here. It's about dang time.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you guys, just so you know, Liz and I are avid TikTokers. Liz has got an incredible following on TikTok, and she has always got such great short little snippets that I really think are moving this conversation forward, Liz, especially with the content on TikTok, because concise, short, I really feel like it's so effective to really penetrate, because like this complex subject can go so like in a million ways. So I really think you do a great job at just grabbing little bits and just focusing on that. So
Thanks.
yeah.
Yeah. I have the attention span of a goldfish myself. So I need short content. I need to make short content. So I'm glad that short content, though, can really explain big concepts. And I think we're seeing just a whole new form almost of communication in people's short form. It's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is actually valuable because you can learn so much. And I mean, for me, my TikTok, I mostly just do dancing in there.
I love it.
Every once in a while, I get inspired to speak on this subject. I definitely get a lot of the Scientology content, and that's how this Sebastian movement came onto my radar, and I'm sure yours as well, right? It got on your FYP page or whatever.
Oh boy, it just took right over. TikTok is so bizarre, though, as well, because the strangest things become insanely popular. And there's sort of like a cycle of them. Like there's a lady digging a mine in her basement, and there's all these different things. And then now it's Scientology talk. And for me, I was already invested before. So it is thrilling. I did not realize that I would have like a visceral response. Is that the right word? I don't know if that's the right word. Like I'm having like a real feelings about it. It's great.
That's great. Well, I think I've had that similar feelings that you have, I think, Liz, because we're being exposed to in real time to the problem, right? Like these people are going there with a camera and showing us. They're still targeting minors. They're still recruiting families. They're still trying to sink their claws into people, and they're still using their like fancy, buildings to purport that as long as you have a fancy building, you couldn't be trafficking people, and you couldn't be a scam, and you couldn't be a sham. And for a long time, and I think that if you're an outsider, it is hard to see, because it's like, how could these people be a scam and a sham and have multi-million-dollar real estate in the prime places of Hollywood, right? Like that doesn't really make sense.
Right. Well, that's, I think, one of the cool things about what's happening is because the whole world now is getting some sort of relationship with some of those people that are downtown in Hollywood and handing out pamphlets. They're starting to ask questions. Who are these people? Where did they come from? How did they get here? Oh, they're from this country. Why did they get out of this country? And they're from lots of different countries. The people that are been focused on, on this whole TikTok, Scientology talk, or just, I don't know what else you call it, just because I'm thinking in those words, but the people downtown in Hollywood filming, there's a lot of creators now, and I don't know, the little girl in me feels so invigorated to see people actually almost, they're not mobbing, they're not violent, nor should they be, but just like calling Scientology out. 10, 20 people just calling them out. It's not anything I ever thought I would see. And there's feelings there, big ones.
I totally agree with you, Liz, especially, again, because we have not had that level of intense advocacy.
Yes.
It's like we were brought up in this system where the First Amendment right was nowhere to be found, you guys. As long as we were stuck in that hotel, our First Amendment right was
Mhm.
1000% canceled. We couldn't speak, we couldn't criticize, we couldn't say what we were feeling. We were
Mhm.
being controlled and manipulated
Mhm.
in a horrendous way.
Mhm.
And it really speaks to seeing this people that didn't grow up under these circumstances, that don't
Mhm.
have the trauma bonding with these people, and they have woken up to what in the hell's going on inside of those places, and
Yeah.
now they're able to do these audits. And I like how, when William was talking about, because I this first audit stuff that I started seeing on TikTok was by this other guy, but then I saw that he was doing audits in other places like parking lots and things like
Right.
that with cops.
Mhm.
So these First Amendment audits were actually an eye opener, because I didn't even know that that was like a thing, you know?
Oh yeah, my husband loves those where they go into public spaces and then somebody confronts them and then they tell them all about the law, and there's like it makes for great content. I typically don't like such I don't really like people not getting along. In movies and stuff, I know it's not
Confrontational.
real, but yeah, like it's not really my form of entertainment. So I'm actually surprised at myself that I find straight up confrontation of downtown outside. It's my worst nightmare as a child, and it's
Mhm.
playing out in real time, but it's really happening. It's and I love the fact that it is a younger generation, a lot of them that are down there. And I know there's always a novelty to Scientology, but there's something really cool about just this. Yeah, it's a cult. Like it's a joke, man. Like it's dumb. And that pleases me greatly. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And as the one thing that I do find missing, Liz, and I've been really calling it out, is in what world are the only people protesting and being outside of these commercial buildings not a shred of Scientology parent joining these confrontations, right? It's like you would think that Scientology parents that really know the ins and outs of what in the hell this is. Like they were participants, they were participating, they did find out, but they're nowhere to be found in this conversation. And it shouldn't be up to William, who never was in Scientology, to have to confront these people
Right.
for violating, people's rights and for scamming people, right? Like,
Well, and that's not his job though. Like that's not his end goal. And I think we all kind of have different end goals and a little bit of different demographics, a little bit of different audiences, vibes. Um, so I think those people really serve a purpose though too, because they don't have a connection. Like
mm,
they're just straight up, this is not cool. I didn't even have to have anybody in my family hurt. I can tell this isn't cool. And
yeah.
then the human interest aspect of it, right? Like I love documentaries, but I love the ones about people, right? That's
Mm.
my communities. I don't know if you watched, I think you did a thing about it, the whole what is it called? The flame, twin flames. Ooh, baby, it's kryptonite.
Mhm. Yeah.
So this is kind of like that in a way. There's certain players have become popular and there's debate as to, should we be talking about their personal lives and what do we know and all this and about saving these particular players. And there's this movement, Free Sebastian, right? Because he's the
Mhm.
one who kind of represents the way I see it is he's right, like almost like he's going to turn into a diamond. He's under so much pressure. On one side, you have all the pressure of Scientology. And usually the other side of the world doesn't give that much pressure because what's as much pressure as a cult? But
Yeah.
now he's in a weird position because he's getting as much pressure on the outside from the outside world as he is from Scientology. So that's wild in itself. But it's bringing up so many questions, so many questions. And whether Sebastian is, quote, saved or not, I don't even know if that matters anymore because millions of people are tuning into the conversation. And again, they're asking, who's this guy? How did he get here? What's he doing here? And nobody's been asking that. Simple questions. How did these kids get here? What's going on here? Well, let us tell you. Let us explain to you. And so once that first wave of people down there kind of does the job and gets the interest going, then someone like you or I is there to kind of help fill in the questions, fill in the blanks. So I think we're all really doing something important in our own way.
Absolutely. And I mean, I've had some pushback in my community tab on a post that I did on this today, mostly positive, but a couple of people are bringing up the fact that he is also a victim. And from the point of trafficking standpoint, you guys, I do understand, look, at the end of the day, anyone who bought the pitch from a man who literally pulled things out of his ass is a victim, right? Because they're all defrauded. They're all being sold this idea that this man really had good ideas that people should implement, right? And it's like, no, he didn't. And everything he did, he pulled out of his ass. So they are defrauded. But the problem becomes when they start doing the bidding of the convicted, indicted felon that wrote the rhetoric.
Yep.
And, this is where we have to go. It's like adults have adult choices to make. And due diligence is needed. And yes, we're all out here speaking out, right? Because for a long time, the subject has been kept very enigmatic and confusing. And is it religion? And can everyone just do whatever they want? And is it okay to infringe on other people's ability to do whatever in the hell they want? And I would say no. Like, we cannot tell Sebastian what he can be into or not into. But the problem becomes when, exposing 21 and under, and I already see it in the chat, that they're saying Jessica's live and 2 young 14-year-olds were taken in there, right? And I get it. Some of these 14-year-olds are actually more savvy than they claim to be. They literally go, and now it's become like, they think it's like a fun game to kind of go in there, whatever. But you know what? These people aren't fun, and they're very pressurized to accomplish something. And we know the hard sell techniques they use on people, and they can get you. It can
be convincing. Yeah, for sure. They can get you. The thing though, that's the best thing, right? That's the question. And that's something I've struggled, I guess, with, maybe thought about a lot. I don't have an answer for it, but at what point does the abuser become the abused become the abuser? And how far can someone go and be redeemable? How does that all work? Human nature is so bizarre. I don't totally understand the parameters of how to fix things if you've done wrong, or if you can. I don't even know, but that's a great conversation. And so Sebastian represents that, because he can be that person that breaks the whole world's heart by just staying in there. And then they understand a little bit more about what this is like, what can happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
that's what I
absolutely. But I go back to the point, like, again, because we're so invested ourselves, and we were so groomed to normalize all these things that went on in these hotels. But I just kind of look at it and go, why did Ghislaine Maxwell go around trafficking underage girls? Why does she spend all that time going around plucking them out and doing all this other stuff, right? So at what point do we not care, as long as you're doing something egregious and as long as you're targeting kids? It becomes a more of a black and white issue, right? And I've already said this a million times. Had Monique Yingling, the Scientology attorney, done her due diligence on who L. Ron Hubbard was and what they really wanted to do in those hotels, all they had to do was put a 21 and up sign on their door.
Right.
And again, if you want to go and believe whatever in the hell you want, we're not here to save you from that choice. That choice is going to be on the table. You go and make that consenting adult decision to get engaged and to be, part
Yeah.
of that, and if you really feel you're going to get somewhere, and I mean, we see this all the time, right, Liz? Like
Yeah.
people that are out there, even in these interviews, what Aaron was doing yesterday, showing that woman that cannot stop raving about how much she loves it in there,
Yep.
right? Like, oh, it's so great, it's so wonderful, it's this and it's that, and it's like these adults, we would know firsthand how much they rant and rave about how great it is for them in there. And there's a point where you cannot tell them that they don't like it. If they're liking it,
Right.
they're liking it, right? But we would know firsthand as the kids that we were and how we got adulticized. And that's the part that I feel like that's where the no gray zone comes in. And especially because, again, we didn't have fierce advocacy for us back in the
Right.
day, right? Like everything was so normalized. Everybody bought the pitch, hook, line, and sinker. And and quite frankly, they haven't repudiated the pitch, right? Because a lot of these Scientology parents aren't calling themselves out.
Right.
They're not coming on lives and saying, "Oh my God, I was out of my mind. What in the hell was I thinking? I'm so sorry." Like there is none of that, and
No.
I don't know if that's like a self-preservation mechanism that they're trying to hold on to, but
Yeah.
again, at the end of the day, it's like, actual ethics change, like they taught us in the hotel, right? Comes with atonement. Like even in the hotel, you guys, like Scientology was okay. Tell us what you did. Like show that you have remorse in order to have ethics change.
Right.
So, for all of these Scientology, parents that really, got scammed, they can claim they got scammed. That's fine. But then claim that you got scammed and then repudiate what you normalize at scale and raise some of those red flags that other parents are not seeing in getting involved in this. Like
Right.
I, as a parent, effed up big time. I got all of my kids involved. Sure, you were under undue influence, right? Like, but even the undue influence conversation for me, Liz, gets a little tricky because it's like, if your parents love doing drugs, you cannot give the drugs to the kid. I love it. I feel great. I feel okay, great. But your kid's not of the age to understand what in the hell you're exposing them to, right? So going back to that, okay, well, you can love it for you as an adult, and we don't even care to have the conversation about what you can and cannot do as an adult for yourself. Going back to like Sebastian, but as long as you're implicating kids in your scheme, then we are literally not in a good place at all.
I completely agree, which is, I guess I'd say, the means to the whole end of this whole Free Sebastian movement is to get to that place. But you're so far in, right? You have the facts, you know the deal, and you have enough information to make a 100% solid decision where there is no gray zone, which is, I mean, crappy for you. Sorry that you got to that place.
A disadvantage, but
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. But like the rest of the world is not they're not there yet. And so to have an opportunity to like get a little bit attached to somebody, it doesn't even matter what he does now. It's already a learning opportunity for the whole world. And so that's where I think the value of it is. I don't even think it is. It's bigger than Sebastian now. I mean, it's not even, it's about the questions that he raises, in my opinion, because whatever happens with him is going to happen with him regardless. And, we have no control over that. But there is an awareness being raised and questions that being asked. I mean, listen, I might get my numbers a little bit wrong. You guys can all fact check me here. And this is not YouTube stats, it's TikTok stats. But Where is Shelly had 40, oh, I'm going to get it wrong, had almost 50 million views. And already Free Sebastian has surpassed that. Shelly Miscavige has been missing for 15 years. It was like 4 million views, I think, just today alone. So there's an unprecedented, like exponential rate happening here. And so whatever happens with Sebastian and Twilla and this host of characters down there is no longer even, they're just a hashtag. I'm so sorry for them. They're real people and they deserve real empathy and real compassion. But in this narrative, in this conversation, what happens to them is not nearly as important as the questions people are asking about them, in my opinion.
Well, and the trained child ethics officer in me, Liz, says, yes, everybody deserves compassion and empathy, but please first show me the money, show me the atonement, show me that you actually regret what in the hell you're doing. Show us
Right.
that you were like, oh yeah, I effed up big time. Because that's the thing about changing, right? Like shaming into change was an L. Ron Hubbard thing. And
Right.
it didn't work. It was a means to an end, but it
Right.
never actually changed people, because we realized, through now actual therapy, that in order to change, you have to change. You have to want it.
Right.
So, I think that, but I couldn't agree with you more that the fact is people understand who Sebastian is now. They're seeing him every day. And and the pressure of this, I mean, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, you guys, to be posted outside that place, because
Mhm.
again, Liz, you bring up a good point that the amount of pressure that is on them, and now that they're publicly being seen, anything that happens
Mhm.
where they F up, I mean, you
Right.
guys have no idea how they get abused for, oh, you said the wrong thing, oh, you created black PR for us. And the power that the executives have over their slaves,
Mhm.
which is the relationship that exists in those hotels, you guys, that's why it's so unconscionable, because in those hotels is a master slave system. They call it senior and junior, but I mean, okay, so you grabbed a couple of washed up words to describe the relationship, because I'm sure Monique was like, no, don't call it
Right.
slave, don't call it master, call it senior junior.
Anything
That's
else?
fine.
Yeah.
L. Ron Hubbard said senior junior, but it's like,
Yeah.
the type of psychological tortures that they are implicating themselves in is something we can empathize for, because we know how sick it is.
Mhm.
But at the same time, there's a lot to say about adult consent, because I really do feel that,
Mhm.
as an adult today, I think I brought it up on my previous live, I've done things as an adult that were shitty, that I didn't like, that was a scam, that I was like, I effed up about it, right?
Mm.
But I'm not pressed about it. Like,
Right.
I don't care. I effed up. That's part of adulting. Like, you learn, you
Whoops. Yeah.
change. But in this case, there's no
No
there's
room for
no room for,
error.
yeah, there's no
Yeah.
room for error. There's no room
No
for
room.
error at all.
Well, everything they're doing is being watched by every single Scientology side person, OSA, his seniors, whoever, probably David Miscavige at this point. And then on the other side, it's also being watched live, you guys, by millions of people. Even if you were just washing your car, it would be stressful to have millions. Maybe not for everybody, but for most people, it'd be intense to have millions of people watch you do anything. I don't know if it's millions. I might be exaggerating. That's probably like the resonance. Not that many people are watching live, but
But
it's
cumulative, I
getting out
mean, you
there.
see
Yeah.
the exponentiality, like you said
Yeah.
about like the TikTok stuff, like, it's just, we are in a different era where, Scientology has been all about crisis management, you guys. There
Mhm.
was nothing else going on inside of those hotels. OSA, the Office of Special Affairs, is crisis management, on and on and on.
Yeah.
And they cannot crisis manage a narrative that they cannot control. And
Right.
that's where they're very pressed right now, because they're not technologically savvy, and they cannot defend the indefensible, right? Because that's what's really coming undone here. And that's what's so great about having, the constant exposure, because it is bringing pressure.
Mhm.
And when the other day when Laura showed up, she literally shut down the entire place, because they were like, oh, one of the ones that really were in here, let's shut it
Right.
down, because they're even scared of their own people, right? Like, if we go up there and we talk to them, we know what to say, because we know we've been there, done that.
Exactly. When people come up to them, I think, and say really appropriately nice, useful things, I mean, what's his name? Sebastian. He's been offered all kinds of help and from legitimate foundations. And so I think that's another thing that it just highlights. Any one of them could walk away and they would be completely protected. They would probably get famous, like they're not going to be necessarily destitute. They might have been before this whole experience, but those particular people have almost what is like an ethics protection, but from us on the outside now, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, so somebody asked me the other day, like, has it gone too far? I'm like, yeah, it has. It's definitely gone too far, but it's unstoppable at this point. And it's really not up to me. I can't stop it.
But what they're saying, like, gone too far in what terms?
Well, I mean, it is getting really intense, and it does seem that people are acting a little bit of fool down there. Even most of the creators, the main ones I follow, at least 3 of them have posted things today saying, if you're going to come down there, be cool. Somebody ripped a number off of the building, which is kind of, oh, it's just a petty little thing. But no, Scientology will take that. They will call that a hate crime. They will probably try to do what they did to Leah Remini and charge the creators down there with some sort of inciting hate crimes.
Laura's brother actually graffitied something at Celebrity Center. Ooh. And he was charged with a hate crime and thrown in jail for a lot of years, you guys. That's
awful.
A child that was born in there that was so desperate, having a total mental breakdown. He had nothing else that he could do that use some spray paint, and out of that they got a hate crime. And I think that everyone that is out there as a creator, you can instigate it and you can poke the bear and all of that, and I'm sure that can get a little wild, but know who in the hell you are facing and know who's protecting them, because now we have full physical evidence in video, you guys, that these people have the LAPD in their literal pockets.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. That's another relationship that's being exposed live, and that you can't predict what's going to happen because they're getting called. They're having to have these interactions with cameras pointed at them, and we can't hear what they're saying, but still the pressure is on. And it's fascinating. This is like shining a light like crazy, like shining a light. And I don't know what we're going to find. I'm not like trying to find out certain things or trying to prove things. This is just like turning a light on in a dark room. And what do we see? Let's find out what we see. Let's keep asking questions about what we see. And let's see what we can, figure out here. Because we all have known that Scientology is awful. And we've been trying to do this litigious thing and this thing and the journalist thing and all this stuff. This is different. This is social street justice. And I'm not talking violence. I'm obviously not endorsing. I do not think violence, or even don't even touch that building, you guys. Use your free speech. That's enough. That is powerful enough. But yeah, it's a form of street justice. It's like there's like mob situations sort of almost happening. It's
well, and going back to the right thing, right, Liz? Because there's a lot of people in life that you have to respect, even if you don't like them.
Yes.
But child abusers deserve no respect. Child abusers are in a league of their own. You literally have to grab their head and throw it into the shit.
Yes.
Because they will not wake up. They will not inconvenience themselves. They will not undelude themselves. There's no incentives for them to take any accountability or to change. And I think that, as these creators are going out there and actually raising the awareness of where the recruitment line starts, right? Like we're talking just where does it start? Now we have it in real time that they're still targeting minors, which is, the thing that we bring up ad nauseum. But also the fact that, okay, let's get into the weeds. Why is this a cult? Why is it a problem? Like, because they're going to get audited. And what is an audit? Is practicing medicine without a license and practicing law without a license. And me having trained as an auditor, you guys, at age 12, I would know. It was normalized that we were asking people to incriminate themselves, to tell us, we were launder their felonies, literally
Yeah.
launder it. Like, you tell us what you did, and all of a sudden we have a technology
Yeah.
that's not called the courts, that's not called go to a lawyer, that's not called anything, and we
Yeah.
will legally advise you on how to handle those matters.
Yes. Hey, speaking of which, not in this live necessarily, but
Mm.
my like last remaining cousin who I was totally that relationship was sort of the only reason I didn't talk about all of this stuff really a lot more. We should get into the sickness another time. But maybe by then, do you ever feel sometimes like the stories you tell or the things are almost so insane that the general population is like doesn't even register with them? You're like, no, human trafficking, child abuse, forced interrogation, and they're just kind of like, yeah, okay. I like the way that they're doing it down there in the Hollywood because they have that 1 second, like it's a cult, it's a scam, it's a this, I tend to be long-winded, like, oh, you do this, and there's this spiritual abuse and blah, blah, blah. And it's just so simple. Like, it's evil, it's a cult. And luckily, our whole culture's come a little bit far enough that we know what that means. It's like a perfect storm of what's happening right now. And I think this could be one of the final straws for Scientology, at least in the United States. They're going to be like, oh, maybe we're not safe, or maybe we have a golden age of dissemination, right? Where things are done not on the street corner anymore, and it's passed off as some fancy, cool new technology. But they have to change. They got to pivot.
Well, and part of the problem too, right, Liz, is the idea that Scientology is for everyone, guys, could not be more false. Scientology,
Right.
according to Hubbard, is for the able to become more able, meaning they don't give a shred of an F of anyone who they cannot sink their claws in. That's what that pitch means. If you are not worthy of them sinking their claws into you, if they cannot squeeze you for money, for kids, for free labor, something that's in their advantage, then you could not be more useless.
Yep. It's like walking by a person sitting on the corner with a cup out with and your kid asks you, oh, are you going to give him $1, mommy? And you're like, no, we make the able more able.
Yeah.
It's
So
like, oh, that's
Scientology's never
ableist.
been a broad general pitch. Scientology's always been about curating who comes. So most of it is done by referral. A lot of Scientologists that safe point. I mean, to really rope someone in is not that easy, guys, but
No.
they do have a system that does work, and they are very good at doing that. And specifically, like, again, targeting who they really want. And then once they really want them, especially like, for example, celebrities, right? Like, ooh, who's friends with Riley Keough? Oh, she's about to do a movie with so-and-so. Oh, okay, Riley, let's pull you in. Okay, Riley, what should we do? How good do you know this actress? Okay, could you take her to a coffee? Oh, okay. And then could the president kind of just show up at the coffee date with you, and then we'll start talking, and then they'll play your friend. They'll tell you, oh my God, this is so great. They'll start hearing everything that's going on in your life, then data mining all that information, because that's how they manipulate you, right? So that's what they're into. They're into highly targeted recruitment. These centers, they do it, you guys, because they already have the building there. They don't give an F about getting people from the street. They give an F about, okay, we have some numbers, like, sure, but they don't give an F about selling $100 book. They literally could care less. I mean, they do it just to prop up the whole scheme about, oh, we really care about bringing everyone in the world to us, you guys. But we would know that, your parents were hand selected because they were prominent opinion leaders and capable in their area. Had your parents been some broke people, they would have been like,
bye. Exactly.
So I think that, these audits
ahead.
are great to expose and to continue bringing up this conversation into Scientology. And as more people find SPTV creators like us that were born in there, and then we can speak to what you said, our disadvantage having been stuck inside for so many decades, knowing how these people work like the back of our hands.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, for example, for me, Liz, like I was adulticized at such a young age,
Mhm.
and that became my thing, right? I was at that same level as these executives, doing the same stuff, witnessing
Right.
the same things.
Right.
So that's why I really hit them with a jackhammer to their head. Because, the thing that makes no sense to me is why they are not calling themselves out as of this year, 2024.
Mhm.
The public record could not be more abysmal
Right.
in terms of what has been repudiated for real. It couldn't be more highly curated. And
Mhm.
how is anything ever going to change for kids, especially,
Mhm.
right? Because we are always, sounding the alarm because, again, it's like adults. We've had Save Lisa McPherson, Save Shelley Miscavige, Save Sebastian. Adults cannot be saved.
Save
Literally,
Buster.
yeah, we can all
You
want
know,
it for them.
I wanted to ask you about this, okay?
Mm,
So my oldest child is 17. Like he's on the cusp of adulthood.
mm,
And the more and more I've learned, and I really consider him to still be a kid. And I meet his friends and they're lovely and they're doing amazing jobs. But I've started to realize that 25, and a lot of science will back up with like brain development, all kinds of stuff, the ends of like long puberty, all kinds of things, that 25 would be
mhm.
maybe more of a, like if you're going to go up against a cult, like maybe you should be 25 and not 18, right? Or maybe 21. Um, so I find it interesting that there'd be like a preying now. There could potentially be a switch over to this preying upon, 18, 19, which is what it looks like a lot of those. I call them kids, right? Because I'm I'm an old lady.
Yeah,
But I also call them kids because I see them as having more development to do and as having a potential to continue growing into full adults. So it's unfortunate that there has to be any type of legal line. Children, absolutely. Like there is no, especially young children, clearly. I'm not debating like, oh, it's fine if a 21-year-old's the same. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that I wish that there was also a protection umbrella for that young adult, because that's what I think we're seeing on of Sebastian, Twilla. They're all pretty young and they're all from, I think,
absolutely.
different countries. Like
Yeah.
it's a weird smorgasbord of stuff happening there. Um, and so while I am a fierce advocate for no children in Scientology, no children practicing Scientology, I tend to kind of want to push that back a little bit further to like
Well, and I
no
think that,
developing minds.
like you said, things are really changing. One thing that I would say is, locking people against their will is a felony. And L1
Yes,
Hubbard literally mainstreamed that for everyone inside of those hotels. The
that
power
is true.
dynamics inside any type of auditing session are so egregious and indefensible. There
That
cannot
is
be anything therapeutic with us
yeah,
having been held against our will. And,
that is
to
true.
your point of any adult, right? In what world is an adult even, the point is on full consenting, right? Because if you are that kinky as an adult that you
Right.
love being humiliated, you love being degraded, you love being locked against your will, you love just the thrill of having all of this stuff. I mean, okay, like what's someone gonna do to get you out of that, especially because, again, give it up to L1 Hubbard, who did tell all these people what was in the pitch, right? Like, our parents cannot say, oh, I didn't know you were locked against your will. Did
Right.
you ever read the auditor's code, Mom? Yes,
Right.
you did. Did you
Oh,
ever
you're a
read
class
on
12 auditor, mom, from back in the day?
Did you ever read the auditor's code where it said, I
Right.
promise never to let the PC end the session on their own
Right.
determinism? And
Mhm.
just like that, they're already committing felonies and false
Yes.
imprisoning people with something they purport to be therapeutic. So
Yes.
that power dynamic could not be more unhinged, depraved, and disgusting. So with that alone, no one's getting helped, even
Right.
the Sebastians, right? Like,
Mhm.
I saw your live with Aaron and you guys were talking about like, well, I was a true believer and I kind of really did believe in it. Like even when I was doing it, right? Like when I
Right.
was 12 years old, like Was I a believer? Like, we were groomed. We
Mhm.
had no shred of a clue. Like, there was
Right.
never in our consent to be,
Right.
this is who I am. It's
Mhm.
like we've had to go through horrific midlife crises that have really been extremely challenging for our mental health in the aftermath of it all, because we have no formative years. We had no ability to understand all of that.
Right.
So I think that's what's coming full circle on this. So, once this situation gets confronted for what it is, which is industrial trafficking of minors at a scale that is indefensible, then all of a sudden everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, I don't want anything to do with Hubbard. Oh no, I wasn't even involved. Oh, I just did it a
Mhm.
little bit. Like, everybody was friends with Jeffrey and Ghislaine until
Yeah.
they were facing trafficking
Right.
charge.
Right.
Oh no, we barely knew them. Bill Gates cannot
Right.
start telling us how, oh yeah, we barely talked about anything but charity work.
Right.
Meanwhile, they're going to the island all the time.
Right.
And that's going back to all these Scientology parents. You were all at the hotel. You were all being serviced by minors.
Mhm.
You all saw it.
Yeah.
And skip us with the pitch that, oh yeah, we really thought that kids could help.
Right.
No
Well,
one,
and then
no,
my parents and your parents, even after all that, like, maybe, okay, you get another chance, parents. We're telling you, your own children are telling you, we went through it and it was not okay. And then they still double down or triple down or quadruple down. That's
because they haven't faced any legal consequences, right? Because they haven't actually
absolutely,
been made to confront the facts. Like, you were all part of a
absolutely,
racketeering scheme. It's called racketeering. It's called
absolutely.
being a conspirator. It's called being a willing
Mhm.
co-conspirator. It's called you funded it. It's called you were given here, sign this consent form, sign that
Right.
you will have no rights. And they
Right.
were all about it, right? Again,
Right.
you and I, Liz, if we go into a situation today, right now, where you and I go, oh my God, sir, you have no idea. Come to this building, this hotel. They're going to have a great seminar, and I'm there with you. And then all of a sudden they're pitching us, we really believe in this building, you guys, that kids are adults, and, sign up for your course here, right? Like,
Right.
there's no way to pretend that you don't know. And when the book that they're selling in those places, when the book one normalizes seducing a minor and blaming it on the minor, maybe it is a full-blown racketeering scheme that is indefensible, right? But
You're talking about the
the
quote from L. Ron Hubbard where he's like, oh, if a 7 or 8-year-old
7-year-old,
girl shudders when you passionately kiss her, it's because she's restimulated. I forget the rest
yeah,
of the quote, but it's like, it's because of her perception of it. It's not real. She should be
right.
fine, which is still in there, isn't it? Or maybe they took it
Yeah,
out by now. It's
no,
still
it's
in
still
there.
in there. It's
Oh,
still
it's
in there.
yeah, it's just so unfortunate because it's been in front of everybody's faces for so very, very long. But I think people have felt powerless. Like the average individual is like, how am I going to stop Scientology? I've got nothing to offer here. They're this big corporation, they're this big whatever. And for the first time, there is something that everybody can do. They can like participate in this conversation, or I'm not saying everybody should go film them downtown, or and I'm not in any way saying anybody should be harassed or even
Well, but
touched.
you know what was very powerful? And
But that's what
I've
they
only
can do.
done one protest, Liz, was going out to Celebrity Center
Right.
and protesting, because you know what? There is power to protesting, right? Like, you
Yeah.
see all these, like, even with Hollywood, right? With Hollywood, it's its own cult in its own right, you guys. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know if you agree with this
I do.
sample, Liz, but I compare Hollywood as the left and Scientology is the extreme right. But they're
Hmm.
they're both structured the same, with gatekeepers, with influencers, with all manner of like weird stuff, but Scientology is ultra right. And the Hollywood is like, oh yeah, we really want to help everybody. Come to our
Right.
event. Come to the Oscars. Let's give you a trophy. Let's do this. And it's like as if Harvey Weinstein wasn't a disgusting. Like, the culture in Hollywood is so disgusting, and
Yeah.
Scientology and Hollywood are like this.
Yeah.
Like,
Same
Scientology is
thing, hire, smear, campaigns, private investigators. Oh, we'll cancel you. We've got the power. We send the message. We're the opinion leaders. And nobody ever thought that could crumble. But I think the last 5 years have shown us that that system can be taken down, and in the craziest way, by a freaking hashtag. I mean, I do not mean to simplify the Me Too movement. There were people that did very serious like journalism and very serious work and lawsuits, but the average person to participate was sharing their story. They were being compassionate, they were connecting. I think we can move mountains when we do that. And in cancel culture, I don't understand what is more worthy of being canceled than Scientology. Like, isn't
And
that
so far, you know, the Scientology people have been cradled and canoodled and have
yes,
actually, you know, taken advantage of the fact that, you know, the subject was complicated. So nobody knows what
yes,
to fight, right? Like it's hard to
yes.
fight going back to this, well, it's a religion. So everyone's supposed to, you know, I respect whatever you want to believe. Who am I to tell you not to believe that? And yes,
Yeah.
within adults, you guys, 100%. Like, I'm not losing sleep over what bad choices adults are making for themselves tonight. I'm sorry, y'all,
Yeah,
but it's like, we don't
for
have the
sure.
bandwidth for it. Like, no
No,
adults have the bandwidth to
no,
go around doing that, right? But as a
no.
civilized society, we should be, you know, advocating, and especially for our case, like, you know, we know those kids have no advocates in there. We know their
Yeah.
own parents aren't an advocate. And, you know, Liz, if you were, you know, if you found out that some, you know, group of moms at your school was doing something horrible to their kids, you'd be calling them out, right? Like
Absolutely.
it's
And if
not
if there
just,
was even one parent doing that and the whole town found out, it would be a similar kind of reaction almost. I mean, probably more so, but like the same kind of uprising, this energy that starts to flow around and people talk until, what are we gonna do about this? And you're so right that in the past, Scientology has been such a complicated topic, right? Like that was part of the design. There's a whole dictionary as part of the design of this cult and many cults to make it impossible for us to explain our situation and our experiences to the outside world, make it really, really hard. And I think
yeah,
we've all been trying to do that and trying to do that. I know with my book, I tried to make it like as digestible as humanly possible. And then with TikTok, with shorts, you know, trying to put these really complex ideas. And I think it just comes back to like the human interest story, because until you can apply the really complicated situations to like one person and kind of care about them a little bit, none of it means anything. Right? Like
mhm,
you and I care because of the crap we went through. People we know care because they lost people or they lost money, they lost their livelihood, they lost their kids. The average person hasn't lost anything to Scientology at all.
right.
But getting invested, as silly as it may seem, in someone like Sebastian on the street corner through their Black Mirror freaking phone can actually put themselves in his position a tiny bit, which is how grassroots movements are powerful. I don't know if that like made any sense, but I see this
No,
really basic human thing happening and it's awesome.
no, that's exactly making sense. And that's exactly what this is about. Because I think that, you know, it's like, why are there no one doing audits at the Fort Harrison? Why is no one doing audits at the Sandcastle? You see what I'm saying? Like they should
Mhm.
be, every time those kids get off the bus, we could have, you know, actual physical video evidence. I mean, never mind that Scientology will then figure out another way, because it was like, you guys, just so you know, when I was in there, when Lisa McPherson died and people were protesting, that's when Scientology said, oh, no more kids can be. We used to walk to the Fort
Mhm.
Harrison and to the Coachman, which is like a block away.
Right.
After Lisa McPherson died, they wouldn't even let us walk. We had to all go into these buses so that no one could see who's inside these hotels. And again, goes back to the racketeering scheme that they're running. Because
Yeah.
again, you guys, when prosecutors look at what you're doing, if you are knowingly violating the law, that goes to criminal intent.
Mhm.
And the people in Scientology know that they violated, they don't give a
Mhm.
shred of an F. They
No.
know that they abuse all these kids, they don't give a shred of an F. Everyone is fair game, and all kids have been made fair game by these
Mhm.
Scientology executives who are the proteges of L. Ron Hubbard. And before the executives want to wash their hands with any, you paid to be that protege, you consented to be that protege, and then you went around doing the bidding
Yeah.
of what your person told you to go and do. And
Mhm.
you lost your critical thinking skills because you decided it would be a great idea once you cross the threshold of that hotel to leave your critical thinking skills at the door.
Mhm.
Well, let's really, you know, revisit that decision in 2024 for all Scientology parents and all of the executives and see where that landed all of y'all, because as much as they pretend that, oh, it's that one, it's this one, it's all of it's
everybody.
Sebastian, is Shelly Miscavige. Sebastian and Shelly Miscavige are in the same bucket. I don't give a shred of an F that Shelly was here and Sebastian was here.
I know.
It doesn't matter. Like, their stupid org board could not be more ridiculous and stupid. It's just, what
You
would
and I have
do?
always agreed on that so much about the Where is Shelley movement, and I definitely still kind of push the narrative a little because I feel like it still serves a means to an end, and highlights just questions like, well, where's the leader's wife? But yeah, I mean, she did horrible things.
Evolution,
To
right?
horrible people. She
And it
approved.
highlights how people do get disappeared. And
Yeah.
again, because they are slaves, you guys. They signed up to
Yeah.
be a slave.
They did.
So, newsflash, breaking news, you guys. Oh my God, breaking news. Like,
Guys, yeah.
these people sign contracts to be slaves. In modern America, that was brought back. You know what I mean? It's like, let's bring back slavery. We got rid of it through the Constitution and everything and all this hard work and all this pain, but let's just bring it right back. And that's what's being questioned today. And it's not being questioned that you cannot be a slave. If you love being a slave and that's your wildest, darkest fantasy, go and live out your fantasy. If you're an adult, we're not going to care. But
Right.
again, it's like, in what world did you decide that, all of us wanted to be slaves, that all of us wanted to be, used as pawns in,
Right.
Practicing medicine without a license, practicing law without a license? Like, I didn't want to practice law without a license. I'm only finding that I was practicing law without a license in the aftermath of it all. I didn't know I was laundering felonies, and all of a sudden someone gave me a felony type place for an event, and then oops, your needle floated. You couldn't be more forgiven. I have more power than the sitting United States president because, oh, that was a state felony you just told me. Yeah, I can forgive that one too. I can forgive federal and state felonies just because I completed a 2-week course inside a hotel that L. Ron Hubbard concocted by pulling it out of his ass. So those are the questions that remain on these kind of like going into the weeds of how is this a scam?
Yeah. Well, and they put themselves such above the law. Like, Scientology is just culture in general. It's just, we know more. We know more than the law. We're better than the law. But the thing is that they're actually not, it's not even always about the law. Above that, they're actually condoning the harm, which is something that I really had to come to terms to with Scientology, right? Because for me, there were certain things I was like, well, I don't understand why that's illegal. Like, I'm not going to abide by that. I mean, I'm not trying to admit to anything, but there are certain things that certain laws where I'm just like, that's kind of stupid. I've jaywalked before, for example. I looked at a street. I said, I don't want to walk there. I'm going to walk here, whatever. It's a very small example. I'm trying to make myself not look like a criminal.
No, but
in Scientology, they say they're the most ethical group on the planet. Then they should care about the harm caused. They should care about the responsibility. They should care about the effect, because that's the crap that they always put on us. Like, they don't.
But what I would say to that, Liz, is they're so diluted and infantilized, and that's the problem.
True.
Like,
True.
they just want to be this infantile adults. Oh, we want to really play a game, you guys. Oh, isn't this so fun? And it's like, when you think about it, it's like they were adulticizing all the kids and they were infantilizing themselves. And that's what L. Ron Hubbard was teaching. Like, you become this like infantile slave to L. Ron Hubbard. And now L. Ron Hubbard has all your answers, can tell you everything, and you have no shred of agency. But again, going back to, y'all consented to that. So don't look at us and go, oh, no, we didn't consent. You all consented. So,
right.
Even your trajectory through that and experience might not be as traumatic as the kids like us. It's like, that's what I feel for. It's like, we didn't have anyone advocating for us when we were inside the hotels, like at all. Like, even for the Lisa McPherson thing, right? It's like, she died, Lisa died, but how many kids were stuck where Lisa was? Right. And do you think that the police gave an F? Do you think that Debbie Cook, that was dealing with that and was full knowing what in the hell happened to Lisa, gave an F? No, she was just, lock up the kids in the buses so no one sees them and we handle the PR. That's what Debbie Cook did, right? So it's like, that's the type of racketeering people we got for ourselves in our childhood that our parents left us with, like full knowing this is, I make the argument always that we weren't left with Larry Nassar where they thought it was a legit doctor and then all of a sudden, oh, it wasn't. We were left in harm's way. Children are being left in harm's way by these people. And everyone in that culture is complicit. And that's why, the buckets are disappearing for everyone involved in the Scientology conversation. You are, you try to paint, oh, David Miscavige, he did it all. He's the boogeyman. None of us knew. No, you all knew. You were all part of the culture. I mean, cult culture.
Sure.
You created that culture.
Yeah. And that's been what's a squirrel people have been chasing up the tree for forever. That's great. The public opinion on David Miscavige has turned. People generally are like, boo, that guy. Now the approach is different. Now we're starting at the very bottom. Now we're starting at the people on the street who I would say are, I got schooled, a totem pole is strongest on the bottom. Did you know that? I did not know that. I have a lot to learn in life. So when I had said in a live on the totem pole, Sebastian was not very high. But I had it backwards. So David Miscavige stays at the top. I would say someone like Sebastian is closer to the bottom. They're not an executive. They're not delivering tech. They're not at gold,
Yeah.
And so it's interesting now that the focus is on that end. Because for so long, the focus has been on the executives, and it's been executive on executive and all this secret stuff we've been doing and all this blah, 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 and the stories they share and then the ones they don't share. It's like kind of effective, but it's not really effective. And it's always a little gatekeepy, and it's always this sort of nostalgic-y in a sick way because we're talking about abuse. And it's just, that's a whole deal. This is different. This is like raw in real time, stopping those vulnerable people in that 1 second where it's like they're about to go in the building with cute little Sebastian who's like, oh, come inside with me. And people are like, stop, it's a cult. It's kind of a personal story, but my grandpa, who was a Scientologist, was a creepy old guy. And I did not have a lot of contact with him. But one of the times I did have a contact with him, I was alone in a room with him. And he started to rub my inner thigh, like very inappropriately. But I froze, and he was kind of moving closer. And one of my older cousins came into the room, and she just screamed, grabbed my hand, and she screamed. She goes, run! And she took me out. And years later, I found out that she knew firsthand what he was capable of. And I was about 4 years younger than her. So I was probably 4, she was 8. And the significance of what she saved me from did not occur to me until much later. And I feel like it's like that in some very primal way. We're looking at vulnerable people and we're trying to tell them that person's a danger. This is a dangerous situation. Run. And that's pure. That's easy. That's fast. I mean, it's not easy to hear, but it's like a quick communication. You don't have to describe the whole religion to get to that place. Right. And this might be far more effective as far as activism goes. This may be an approach because it's never been done before. This may fizzle out more in the court of public opinion and social street justice than anything we've ever tried before.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's definitely the beginning of something, and more protests, large-scale organized protests are in the horizon, I think, in all of our near future, and with all of our subscribers and all of you guys that are in the chat that have come to the two that we've done so far, with Eat Predators. And we're also talking with Alexa to do more of that type of activism, because as much as you get defeated and you think, oh, it's not going to work or it's not going to make any difference, Scientology's worst nightmare is the public pressure. And it's when they cannot keep that fake facade of being so squeaky clean. And again, the day that all of our subscribers are finding out just how much at risk kids are, right? Because that's what I've also found that has really resonated with with what I've spoken about, right? It's like we grew up in this environment where no one gave a shred of an F about kids. And then to my shock, we start talking about what happened to us about kids, and people, have been so nice, so supportive, so caring, so invested, because it should be human nature to protect our young. Like, that's humanity. Scientology dehumanized all its proteges to not think that way. And to the point that we were just talking, Liz, like, in what world is, a school of moms all knowing that some moms are abusers, and then everybody just shuts up? And, in our case, that's what it was. It was the norm. Like, it didn't, oh, Liz is off the rails. She's so out of ethics. Oh my God, she was smoking pot. Oh my God, she's disgusting. Like, that's how you were spoken about. Like, no one had a shred of compassion. You're just so out of it. Oh my God, again, you're doing this again. What in the hell? You're in treason. You're going to be doing this. And it's like, okay, that's dehumanizing. That wasn't helpful. The technology that they purport to apply was like literally an entitlement to sadistic practices from hell that, again, in no way, shape, or form can any child be exposed to that. And Scientology is ethics, audits, and courses. Nothing else is being done in those hotels. So, I think that as we continue to raise the alarm on all the Scientology parents and the executives, who are the two buckets to me of, who's the feeders, who's feeding, kids to this, the parents. So they are complicit. And who are the ones that are, can't wait to get their hands on the passports of the next minors? Well, turns out that it was all the executives. So, we have to just,
who wants that much control over people? It's so weird. It's just so weird to me. It creeps me out. It's just like, who is
correct? And it's like, with that much level of control, you better believe there's going to be a lot of responsibility now in the aftermath of what we know, right? Like, because then it was normal. We thought, oh my God, they care so much about us. But it turned out that it wasn't. They didn't give a shred of an F. They were just exploiting us. And we couldn't be more aware of the facts today. Lucky for us. And, lucky for all of you guys that are listening, holding space, and becoming more aware, and we become more proactive. And, the scourge of what L. Ron Hubbard propped up cannot live up to scrutiny. That's why there's no disconnection. And this disconnection is so, a thing that Scientology really applies, right? Because the minute you throw actual logic at the problem, the whole technology keeping Scientology working, it doesn't work. You guys, it does not work. The technology couldn't be more useless, pathetic, and unworkable. You got to keep it working by not criticizing it. I mean, how stupid can anyone possibly be, honestly?
Exactly. Well, and I wonder too, just with all the traction, because I keep saying it's not all TikTok. There's a lot on YouTube as well. There's a lot of content being generated about this whole Hollywood center watching. I don't know what the right words are to describe it. And there's something poignant too about it's all happening over Hollywood squares. Like, the backdrop of all of these things happening are Hollywood squares. There's something so Scientology about that. The optics on that. But I think it also would make it very appealing as content for celebrities who are in Scientology, celebrities who have dabbled in Scientology, celebrities who are being recruited by Scientology, and those who already represent it. Like, there's no way Jenna Elfman and Bodhi Elfman don't know what's happening. There's no way that
Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah. Not to mention the way algorithms work, like, they're already talking Scientology stuff in their phone, in other apps. I'm sure it's going to pop up in their feed. It's going to. And so I think that this movement might also really be not just cutting off, it's representing what we're seeing are people getting cut off at the street, the tourists, like, oh, don't go in there, and they lose the sale. But what's invisibly happening is that exact same thing on the other end of the phone. And I mean, social media is for everybody. Celebrities use social media. Big, important people. They might not be commenting, they might not be following, but chances are they're watching, especially if it has to do with a topic like their religion or something they stand for. So I wonder in the back, like what celebrities think. I would love for some celebrities to get involved.
Yeah. I mean, some celebrities that are not Scientologists, obviously.
Both. I mean,
Yeah.
shit, they should send anybody down there.
Mhm.
I dare you, Scientology. I dare you to send one Scientologist representative down to face that crowd and answer questions. Do it. Try. I'd be super curious to see how that would go. I would hope people would be respectful on both sides. But I don't know what will happen next. There's no precedent from what I understand about this in Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard they didn't even know what to do with SPTV, right? But they had to somehow have formulated some kind of new plan. If they don't evolve here, I give them, then they're like on their last heartbeat, but they might have a little more fight. We'll have to watch
Well,
and
their only thing is always like isolate, and stick their head in the sand to pretend that there is no problem and that they are doing nothing wrong. And even you see it when people get confronted, it's like they're just like, you know, oh, they don't, this idea that the other person doesn't know what in the hell they're talking about, right? And
right.
that's what going back to like recovery and addiction, they are addicted to L. Ron Hubbard. If L. Ron Hubbard is not there in their life, then they purport that their whole thing is going to fall apart and they have withdrawal symptoms. But so that's why you can't keep them off of the drug. Like they
Right.
love it. They get obsessed with it. They go all deranged about it. But
Right.
going back to the point of the kids, it's like the kids that are exposed to these infantilized adults don't stand a chance. And, all celebrities, once they, again, going back to, Jeffrey and Ghislaine, very powerful, very hobnobbing, very, everybody wants to be friends with them and go to their dinner parties. Until today, you couldn't find a single person at their dinner party because of what in the hell they were doing to kids. And in
Yes.
Scientology, there is that reckoning that is coming. So all celebrities, Scientologists, hang on to your seatbelts because you're about to be literally, we're entering that flip side. We're entering like this year where it's no holds bar. We're not shutting up. We're not, watering it down so that y'all can have a little more time to process your trauma. We don't give a shred of an F about your trauma. Come clean already. L. Ron Hubbard told you how to write OWs. Well, right time, place, form, and event of every criminal act taking place in those hotels, and take yourselves to the FBI Crimes Against Children unit, because that would shut this whole thing off. Like literally, if even just literally get Liz, if all the people that have left just did an OW write-up and took themselves to the nearest law enforcement agency and willingly admitted what in the hell they were about doing in those hotels, not curated, not, oh, this one's going to make me look bad, or let me write all these paperclip withholds, which is all they've done until now, right? Imagine they have the technology, guys, to come clean. It's not that hard. L. Ron Hubbard invented it. Thank God, L. Ron Hubbard. Thank you. Time, place, form, and event of the criminal acts you committed. Turn that into an affidavit, and then under oath, go in there and take accountability for what in the hell you all did together. And then watch everyone like cockroaches leave the MF hotels, because now do I look bad being associated? Then that's the only place where the narcissist is going to be like, oh, never mind. Like,
that's what I was going to say, about like the Epstein and Ghislaine. There was a while there when everybody who was actually outraged, genuinely outraged by their actions, was screaming, but there was still this insulation around them that was kind of, not acknowledging it or pretending, that it wasn't happening. And those people might have been a part of it or not, but when that inner, closer inner circle kind of turned, I think was the tipping point, because it's optics at that point. It's survival of the fittest. It is, I can no longer be associated with this group, even if I am wishy-washy about it. It's having to take a stand because of the public opinion and the court of, public opinion. And I think that for Scientology, I don't know how much money they get from, I don't know how many new members they get. It's very hard to track because they're always lying about it. But I really hope that their numbers are cooling down. I see it's becoming more bilingual as well, which I think is really, really important.
Bilingual?
Yeah, here's just so much more Spanish speaking. A lot of the creators down there, they're having full, a lot of different languages actually. And I think that's important. That's kind of the army we need to fight the beast. So
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked to do these type of videos in Spanish for the Latin community because there's a ton of Latin people involved in Scientology.
right.
I speak fluent Spanish, so it's not a problem of speaking Spanish. It's just like I have to like mentally change, and I don't know. I leave it in the comments, you guys, if you want me to do this message in Spanish too. But
That'd be cool. Someone
Hmm.
says here, Liz's energy is completely different than the podcast with Aaron. She was super safe, Sebastian, and said we should send him gifts to show that we care. I just want to speak to that. That was actually Aaron's idea, to send gifts to care. First idea, shoes and deodorant and a new shirt. It's not a bad idea. But I think my processing and my thinking has evolved since even yesterday, because things move fast and I'm just along for the ride, baby. I'm just trying to figure it out like the next person. But I think between yesterday and today, it became bigger than Sebastian for me. I started realizing like, oh crap. I mean, some of those TikToks that I posted got, over 100,000 views in a matter of hours. And to me, like, not the click views of it all, but to me, that's feedback. Like, people care. People want to know what's going on. So
I mean, I agree with you. And then, flip-flopping is part of evolving, and it's a measurement of intelligence to be able to, to switch and to change. It's like, we're not in Scientology anymore, where unless if you said this and it has to be that, like, we are allowed to change our mind. We're allowed to change our opinion. We are processing a ton of trauma. There's so many reasons why not everything has become super evident at first. Even our own brains protect us sometimes from seeing it for what it is, right? It's like, I feel like, going back to my disadvantages list, like, I feel like, being an auditor, having to have had my head on such immense pressure, going back to like the pressures of being there, right? It's like, I said this in my live the other day. It's like they turned us into these Rottweilers, right? So now I am trained to investigate, and my mind, I cannot think any other way. Like, my mind thinks through all of it and sees through all the garbage and and it's like, I have to confront evil, otherwise my head will be sliced. And it's an ability that comes in handy now on the flip side after a ton of therapy, so that I'm able to control that and use it for the right reason, right? Because like, now we're investigating y'all. Now we are asking the questions. Now you owe us the answers.
Yeah. This is your ComEv Scientology, except for
This
instead
is
of
your
a panel of
evidence, your
3.
public committee of evidence. By the time we're done with you, there will be no one walking through your doors, because in what world can you have humans crossing the threshold of a hotel where everyone knows that kids are going to be at risk? Because that's the question we're posing to all the executives and all the current Scientologists and anyone else who has ever even left. Make that make sense today in this year 2024. Maybe 10 years ago, it made a lot of sense. But you know what? Times have changed, and we are in a new year. And in 2024, it's not making a shred of change of sense.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Scientologists are even brave enough to get caught walking through the doors of a Scientology building in 2024. Because if anybody's practicing it, like, they're probably sewing people on the sly, just trying to go through the back door, It's not a good look. So, should we do comments? We went a little bit longer. I have a tiny bit more, but do you want to?
Okay, perfect. I was just going to ask you that. Alicia, thank you so much for your super chat. You're both beautiful inside out. Keep fighting. We are here for it. Well, thank you, Alicia. That means a lot. Let's see. There's so many of you guys on the chat. I love it. It's 279 people.
Oh, really? That's fun.
Yeah.
I can't see that from here.
Question. Here's a question. Please tell me why there is no arrest for these crimes against you as children, as the children still there when there are so many testimonies to the abuse. What else do they need? Well, that is the one Trillion-dollar question.
Yeah. Yeah. They
The
probably need a
trillion
perpetrator who's willing to admit the details of exactly what they did, and you'd think there'd be some sort of video footage at some point. Something could take him down, but that's a great question. Why hasn't that happened?
Yeah, the criminal investigation is long overdue, you guys, and that's what this is needed. This is a racketeering scheme.
Mhm.
Everyone inside of those hotels is implicated AF.
Mhm.
And, they've never been confronted like that. No one has ever been able to say that. Even the journalists, Liz, because they're so glib, they don't go inside the hotels for themselves. They try to really get regurgitated, sanitized, viewpoints to really type a quick story and then just make a quick buck. And then they just literally don't give an F. So as long as the media doesn't do their job, the police doesn't do their job, the parents refuse to do to be parents, and the
Yeah.
Scientology executives are all about the trafficking and, rebranding it as, oh yeah, we're going to really save the world by enslaving kids. We would love to hear how that pitch aged for all of you Scientology executives. In what world were you saving and clearing a planet by bringing back slavery into America? Because your 501c could not be more of a sham and a scam. So the criminal investigations will happen when there's enough outrage for it, type of
Yeah.
Jeffrey and Elaine, for years, they evaded
For
being
years.
caught and anything.
Yeah,
You
until
know?
the court of public opinion basically demanded. I mean, I don't know. There were so many people that fought really, really hard and did a lot of whistleblowing and legal action. But where does that
Well, and they
energy
also
come
had
from to
they
push
had
the
an
pressure?
advantage because the Palm Beach police did investigate these people.
Yeah.
So there was already some sort of investigation. The Clearwater police has refused to investigate anything. LAPD refuses to investigate anything. They literally, if a kid ran away from the hotels, you guys, in Clearwater, the Clearwater police brought him back to Debbie Cook. Oh, here's this runaway. Here's this runaway. So there's been so much strings to pull, but we will get there. We'll get there some way, somehow.
Yeah. I mean, it will have to. It will. I truly believe that we're in a new era. So
Mhm. I live in Clearwater and would love to protest in front of Flag or Sandcastle or the other building at the corner of Cultivate, but I wouldn't be able to do it alone as a petite introverted woman.
then
No,
organize the
no.
community, start a Facebook group. Because honestly, the girl that I really enjoy following the most on TikTok, Jessica Palmadessa, she said things like, she's like, walking into an alley, why am I doing this? Because I got to stay with the guys. I'm not going to be over there by myself. I heard her say something like that. So, power in numbers, if that's really what you want to do.
Yeah, well, power, numbers, and organizing. And again, it's
Yeah.
like with the awareness comes that ability that we can all do this. And, we organized something here in LA that was, the first protest that was organized by Eat Predators had I think 6 or 7 people. It still was good. I mean, Laura got so many views from that. She was one of the only ones that was there. And then
Yeah.
the second one that we did at CC, we got over 40 to 50 people. And we had that whole thing where the LAPD came and all of that and blah, blah, blah. But, it's very effective to unite and to protest. So more of that definitely in this year.
Yeah.
As a never in, I am lost. I'm lost nothing, and the SPTV creators is what we care deeply about. Your fight has now become our fight. Well, thank you, Alicia.
Yeah, that's nice. Thank you.
William posted a message about the Sebastian situation. He says all of the info being said about him are untrue.
He did say that, and he messaged me, and then I had another source. So I was going to do a TikTok about this later. It's all coming down essentially to some screenshots. That is a conversation with Sebastian's mom. And so I can go over those another, on the TikTok later, but I was thinking really deeply about this today. And I assume what you're saying, most of the stuff is his background, right? Like that he was kicked out of his family. His family was very strong Catholic, was kicked out of his family and went to Scientology for refuge, got basically sent here to do labor, right? That's the sort of narrative happening. And I mean, if anybody knows anything about that, you'd probably be the person to ask. But to me, I'm really at the point where I could be wrong. It could be wrong. Absolutely. It's TikTok. It's the internet. It could 100% be wrong. But the story is almost bigger than the truth. And that sounds messed up. I care about the truth. The truth is important to me. Facts are important to me. And I would never want to spread misinformation. And the thing is, I will, if I need to correct anything, I will. It's weird though, because they don't always get the same amount of views. You got to be careful. But my point is, what's untrue? Like, what's untrue? He's away from his family for whatever freaking reason. Then we should find out. Then we should find out more, because it doesn't, the truth is bigger. It doesn't even, the story is bigger than the people, is what's happened, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I mean, we have all of our testimonies to back up what it is. So even if we don't have every last, detail about that specific guy, we just know how it works, you guys. He ended up here in the United States. He's from Colombia. I ended up here. I'm from Mexico. All the current kids that, filed lawsuits in federal court in Tampa Bay were one brought from Germany, one brought from Australia, one brought from Switzerland. So it's a trafficking scheme. It couldn't be more of a worldwide trafficking scheme if we didn't literally have representation of all of these people. Like,
Yes.
Cassie, hey guys, love, listen, surge. Oh, yay. Nice to see you, Cassie. William is not happy with the cloud chasers that are showing up doing unlawful things. Now he feels it's a job to make sure things don't go wrong out there.
I get it. I mean, I get it. He can't control people, but I don't want to say he started this, because it's bigger than all of us now, but I get it. I get him feeling a sense of responsibility. But it's getting wild. I don't want people to get hurt down there or get arrested. People shouldn't act a fool.
Emil Luis says, what annoys me is that there's guys out there that don't even know anything about COS and just parroting what others say. I just wish they would do research so they can talk to other people with facts. I mean, true, you guys. I mean, look, this is just beginning. This is just the beginning. So let's all hold on to our horses. And then
they're just doing their job. They're just starting. Like, that's their little role in the big picture, is the way.
But I mean, I agree. Become, don't be an amateur. Don't be a dilettante, for God's sakes. Don't be a dilettante. Become literally commit or get the hell out of here. We'd rather have you dead than incapable.
Right. It's true.
This is huge right now. What's happening? Let's keep fighting. Everyone is getting close to forcing the government to get involved. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Laura FM is a warrior and advocate, and I love her.
Totally.
Yay. Absolutely. I don't really think it's gone too far. They're helping to keep people safe and out of the hands of the cult, but the Free Sebastian movement is based on the myth of his background. Got it.
That's a good word. That's a good word there. Myth. That's a very good vocabulary word for, I think, this situation. I think it went a little far last night when the people were like, when those kids came around. The whole thing ended last night with like kids on the corner trying to brawl, kind of, and then all the creators standing around him, and then they all went dark. Got a little shady. So I just don't want anybody to get hurt. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, and if you do anything crazy, you're an adult and you will face the consequences, the very real legal consequences that Scientology cannot wait. I mean, and that's what needs to be emphasized. Scientology is thirsty AF for y'all to literally fall on your face. And, that can look in a lot of ways because, I mean, again, right? It's like they called the cops the other day said somebody had a gun and it was like a lighter gun or something.
Oh, yeah. It was wild. The police just like roll up and just pew pews drawn, just running down the street. And yeah, the guy was wearing a ski mask though. So, I mean, it was a little shady. It's just, if you blink, you miss something is really what it is. But that becomes exhausting. Like, I can't watch that forever, all the time.
No.
We got to take shifts, guys.
That perspective I would have never thought about until Liz is saying Sebastian and push from both worlds. That was a wow for me, as I never into hear of that, and I don't think about that. Thank you, Tampa girl. Yeah, I mean, that is so relevant, Liz. Like the abuse that they are facing for themselves. I mean, Never mind again, you guys, they brought this into themselves. So yes, we can wish for them not to be there. We can wish all we want. We can all light up a candle at the end of the night to help Sebastian. But as we keep growing our awareness, we're also wanting to light up candles for all the kids stuck in those hotels that don't know what in the literal hell is going on.
Yeah.
The graded daughters of Dianetics in the house. Hello, hello, hello. Justice. Yep. Well, wonderful. I think that this was a great live, Liz. We should do it again.
For sure.
And this was a great, little trip down the rabbit hole. And any kind of closing statements or words of wisdom that you'd like to share?
No, not really. Just follow me on TikTok, follow me on the YouTube. I probably give a little bit more of the scandal, the tea. And I'm gonna I guess post those screenshots and we can all talk about the myth of Sebastian. I don't want anybody to feel like they cannot live their true heart and their true life. And I know there are many people in Scientology who are being suppressed from just being allowed to be who they want to be on like all scopes of life. And I don't want that for them. And I am willing to sacrifice Sebastian to help save them. And I don't mean that obviously in a literal way, but it's like you said, he's an adult, he's making choices. And so
Yeah, he's become the poster child of this problem. And,
Yeah.
we're here for it because he is part of the problem. And
Yeah.
if he wants to be part of the solution, he can take that adult choice and choose not to be there and choose to walk out and choose to get help so that he's not hurting others, because that's what this is about. It's not about an opinion. It's not about us wanting to,
Correct.
go on a power trip and tell you how you should think or you're wrong and we're right or anything like that. It's just a matter of the facts speak for themselves. L. Ron Hubbard normalized locking up kids against their will inside of these hotels.
Right.
You know what? Nothing else is worth a shred of a thing in there. Literally, they need to be shut down. They need to stop. And the pressure needs to be ratcheting it up for all the parents that know about this to come clean, for all the executives in Scientology that are all about this to come clean. And, people like Sebastian would never have a way to get here if this was actually called out.
That's right.
So, and let's just remember, guys, in ending, that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. So we're always just showing up here. Nothing is going to change from us just talking today, but all these seeds that we're planting are going to eventually bloom. So that's what we have to keep our eye on the mountain, knowing that we're spreading awareness. We are challenging the status quo. We're challenging the narrative of the racketeering scheme that did get propped up, that has for 73 years been enabled, government enabled by the mastermind co-founders, David Miscavige, Marty Rathbun, and Mike Rinder, who did take it upon themselves to spend 10 years pitching this as a 501c. Well, today we would love to hear your statement of what kind of 501c y'all really propped up, because that's a type of transparency that's going to be needed in order for the thing to actually get shut off.
Yeah.
So, the
We all
ball
need to
is
work
in
together.
y'all's court. Go and hit that ball already. What in the literal hell is anyone waiting for?
Yeah. We'll just have to be hitting home runs out here. All right. Well, thank you so much for this tonight.
Thank you, guys. Have a great evening, everyone. And bye-bye. See you soon. Ciao.